If you look at the great taking, there's not going to be bailouts. There's going to be bail-ins. So it very well may be that we have bail-ins of financial institutions, banks, and there may be bailouts of non-bank financial institutions. It's hard to say, but it's really curious that the Bank of England would come up with this as of January 1st, that they're not going to tell you who they're bailing out. And don't forget, go back to 2008, the Fed bailed out the world. They lent out, what, 16, 17 trillion dollars, and we didn't find out about that for 2 years. Well, it's that simple. The markets are rigged. They rig markets with derivatives. What they want to go up, they buy, and what they want to suppress, they sell. So, they're rigging equity markets higher. They're rigging, they're trying to provide a floor under the credit markets. And I've said all along that when this thing breaks, it will be the credit markets that break.
Right.
And what very well could break the credit markets, you're starting to see bigger and bigger demand deliveries for both silver and gold. And I believe there's going to be a failure to deliver. I think it'll start in silver. Gold will immediately go into the same manner of non-delivery, and that will break confidence. And what happens to a Ponzi scheme when it can no longer get further new capital? That new capital comes from from sovereigns, originally from sovereigns being able to borrow. Well, it's completely over. The Ponzi scheme collapses, interest rates shoot through the roof, the real economy stops because credit stops, and you could, every day you wake up, you're only 72 hours away from a Mad Max scenario. Without credit, you're going to see Mad Max, because nothing, and I do mean nothing, runs without credit in today's world. Yeah, I don't believe that there's an exodus coming at all. I think there's a die-off coming. And if you shut credit off, food becomes unavailable. Even fresh food will rot on pallets waiting to be shipped. Shipping will stop. Everything will stop. The average person has no food stored up. So within 30 days or 60 days, you're going to see an immediate, blast of people dying just because they don't have food. And, it may be that it takes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years for this to get through everyone's system, and you start to see even a higher turbocharged die-off. We're seeing cancers, we're seeing blood clots, we're seeing heart problems, and it's across the board. This is not just old people. You're seeing young athletes, 16, 17, professional athletes in their early mid-20s at the best shape of their lives, just falling down dead. So, is that part of it? Was that part of the original rationale? I would imagine it probably was. What will happen is you basically get a deflation in everything that you own and a hyperinflation of the things you need, like food. If there's no credit, all of a sudden, an apple or a dozen eggs is, if you can find it, $10, $20, $100, $2,000, who knows? But the stuff that you have is going to deflate. Your stocks, your retirement plan, your real estate, all of that's going to deflate, because if there's no credit that allows new buyers the ability to bid on those assets, the assets go with no bid and only offers, and they'll drive the prices, literally to being worthless. If there's no credit available, you're looking at assets being priced at pennies on the dollar. It's never happened on a grand scale, but certainly you've had governments that have been shut off from the credit markets, and what happens is their currencies hyperinflate. Look at Argentina. Look at Look at Brazil. Look at Zimbabwe. Look at Russia in 1990. When countries are no longer able to borrow, then you get deflation of their assets, and the countries go into survival mode. The Weimar Republic was a different. That was different because it was done by basically call it printing alone. And back then, you had other currencies that were still tied to gold. There are no currencies anywhere on the planet tied to gold. And like I said in the past, I mean, when you looked at, the nations, Colombia, Venezuela, etc., there was always an alternative to those countries. Right now, I mean, the alternative is U.S. dollars. Now, if this happens on a global scale, where is there to hide? What currency is there to hide in? There are none. There are only two monies, gold and silver, that you can hide in. And I mean, you're not going to be able to get gold or silver because once they fail to deliver, nobody's going to sell it for any currency of any amount until the system begins to reboot and we have currencies that are, in fact, again, ratio backed by gold and silver. Right. And along with the biggest debt problem, there's speculation. There's obviously speculation on the United States as to whether or not we hold the gold that we say we hold. There's speculation on other countries whether that their gold actually exists. I think there's very little speculation whether China or Russia or you could lump in India because they've been a big buyer. I mean, these countries, these central banks have been big buyers of gold now for 10, 15 years. And China has actually been grossly underreporting what they've bought. I mean, if you look at what has gone through Shanghai, and we know nothing's exported, so the gold goes into the country, but we know it never goes out. I mean, how many tons per year? You're looking at, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 tons per year going in. It's not coming out. We also know that China produces 450 tons a year, which never comes out of the country. So the West has a debt problem. It's speculative as to whether or not they actually hold the gold reserves they say, but the BRICS nations absolutely hold more gold than they did last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They've been building their gold reserves higher. And the old saying, he who has the gold makes the rules, that's going to come into effect in 2025 because they can't do it. I mean, the gold does not exist to fill up the coffers. I mean, they would be competing with Russia. They'd be competing with India. They'd be competing with China. They're having a hard enough time keeping the price down without them buying. If they added buying, I mean, there's only so much. What is it? Call it 3,800 tons produced worldwide, and that's already spoken for. And silver's already in a huge deficit. So there's no way. Yeah, they can print the money and they can buy contracts on gold or silver, but can they get those delivered? I don't think so. I think it's impossible. I think 2024 is going to be a kindergarten party compared to what happens in 2025. 2025, again, I believe there's going to be a failure to deliver. Once that happens, who knows where the prices can go? Forget about charts. You forget about everything. You're gonna, when all is said and done, count your net worth in ounces. And because this is it's a Western credit problem, and when credit breaks, you're going to see institution after institution fail in domino fashion. And I think the great taking will definitely be in place before the end of 2025. And like I said, people ask me, oh, well, give me a forecast. You can't forecast. an Armageddon-like market. And you cannot do it mathematically either because A, we don't know how much in dollar terms. A, we don't know how much gold the US really has, and we don't know how much credit they're going to try to borrow, nor how much money supply they're going to print. So you don't have a numerator and you don't have a denominator. So you can't come up with a number. How much is each gold ounce worth that the U.S. government owns divided by the amount of credit that they owe? You can't do that math because you don't know the top or the bottom number for sure. Would you want to be the nation that blows up the entire Western financial system and literally start World War III? No, they don't have to do that. They can stand back and let us just die on our own. Let our bubbles blow up. Let us our own the harvest of what we've sown. So, I mean, there's no reason for them to push. They don't have to push. They don't even have to push a tiny bit to knock us over. The West is gonna collapse completely on its own, and they know this. It's math. They're smarter than I am. They're smarter than you are. They know this. If we know it, they know it.